Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Andrew A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. I'm here with my partners, Andrew Boykin and LaRon the Motivator. Got a couple other fellas that are going to be joining on here pretty soon, but we're here to have the conversation that we enjoy having, and that's about men's mental health. It's really important that as men, we're as strong as we can possibly be for our communities and for our family. And so it's important that we have these open, honest conversations that we can learn so we can learn from each other and just get better. That's really what it's all about. And so today, we really want to touch on a couple of, just current events and things that have been in the news and in the media that we feel are important, to the journey of manhood. One particular thing that I wanted to touch on and open with, there's a video that's been floating around of the rapper DMX. And so I don't know how many of you are familiar with him. Most of you should be, stop, drop, open up shop back in the 90s. Unfortunately, he's had a drug addiction for a very long time, and I saw a video yesterday where he broke down how he actually got on crack initially, and it was a really sad story. You could see a lot of emotion in it. You could see a lot of regret and things like that. But what essentially happened was one of his friends that he was out, in the streets doing different things with. At the time, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't participate in any of those things. Well, one night they're having a get together or a party or something along those lines, and there's a blunt being passed around. So they're smoking weed or whatever. And he wasn't aware that it was laced with crack cocaine. And as he explains this, he's fighting back tears. You can see the emotion. And the only thing that I could really think when I saw that is what was going through his mind was that if I wouldn't have made that decision that day, he was only 14 years old. 14 years old. One decision affected his entire life. Even though he had all the fame, the attention, and everything that he got from being a famous rapper, it didn't ease the pain from that one moment at age 14. And that carried out until now, where he's in a vegetative state from a drug overdose. And so, as men, it's really important that when we choose our friends, when we choose our circle, our tribe, that it's strong, like-minded men who are not looking to pull us into different things. And so, that's what we're going to be talking about. We also want to touch on the George Floyd situation and just kind of how that relates to the mental health of Black men in America. And so that's our topic for today. As always, thank you for joining us. We want you to like, comment, and share. This is an interactive broadcast. And so if you have any thoughts, if you have any input, we value that. And so just drop that in the comment section. Also, again, like I said, share this and like it. We want Facebook to know that there's good conversations going on over here. And so that's what we want to do. But Andrew, I wanted to start off with you, brother. So last week, you were putting together a conversation about George Floyd. I just wanted you just really quick in your own words. What is your major concern with the George Floyd case as it relates to the mental health of men?
Well, my major concern is that a lot of the feedback when I put a link on online or on Facebook asking, am I the only one who's suffering from what I'm seeing and hearing? And a lot of people chimed in saying, no, you're not the only one. This is horrible. This is terrible. And the purpose that I wanted to address, and I'm hoping that others will address, is the feeling that we have inside of us. Because if we bury it, if we allow it to fester, if we go on as business as usual, meaning this is no different than a modern day lynching and watching a slave story of someone being beat or actually being there and then going on with life. Wow. And then having children and going on with life. That pain is deep inside of you, and whether you realize it or not, it comes out. It comes out when you don't know it. It comes out when you do know it, but it comes out. And it comes out all over the people that are right in front of you, including your loved ones. So we need to address that.
Yeah, most definitely. In watching the case myself, I think the recurring feeling that arises in men in our community is that we're powerless. No matter what we do, we can be good fathers, we can be good businessmen, we can be good in our communities, but there's a point where there's this vulnerability that we can't get away from. There's a point that even though we're the man of the house, when we step outside of the house, we can be made to be a boy, by the powers that be. And it's just a very uneasy feeling. I'll share a story with you. I was actually on my way back from Texas here. This is about 2 years ago. Car breaks down on the highway in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. Right. And so I had a decision to make. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, I can sit here. It's pitch black. There's no street lights or anything, or I could try to figure this out. My cell phone had died. It was just like the worst situation. Phone wasn't working. And again, middle of nowhere, Kansas. So I get out of the car. I start walking. This is on the highway. It's pitch black. And I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm walking. I'm looking for mile markers. I'm trying to figure out where a gas station may be so I can use the phone and get myself out of the situation. Where a cop pulls up, right? He has his lights flash, and I'm thinking, okay, great. I've got some help. He jumps out of the car with his gun drawn. So
Wow.
a man stranded on the side of the highway, instead of him coming up and asking, hey, do you need any help? My car is about, a half a mile down the road. He clearly saw it when he passed me, when he passed the car to approach me, but he pulls out his gun. And so I put my hands up. He pats me down and all of this. I explained to him what's going on. He's very apprehensive. It's a very tense situation. And my life flashed before my eyes. The only thing that I could think about was all the times in the news that I heard about black men being gunned down, just wrong situation with the cop who may be nervous or whatever the situation may be, but you feel powerless. I had another personal situation. This was years ago. I'm on my way home. Cop pulls up behind me. He follows me. So he's trailing me for several blocks. And so, I've got my seatbelt on. I know I don't have anything going on, no tickets, no reason that he should be following me. And so I turn into my neighborhood. And as I pull into my house, I'm getting ready to pull right into my house. He hits the lights. Woo! So I pull into the driveway and I look over. He hops out and he's like, hey, stop. And so it may have been the wrong thing to do, but I pushed my garage door opener to let him know that, hey, this is my house. Everything is fine. He pulls out his gun and he rushes to the car and puts it right to my head. And at this time, my oldest children's mother, she was pregnant with my oldest son. And so she runs out and she's like, no, stop. No, wait. Long story short, he handcuffs me. He pulls me out. It's embarrassing. I got neighbors outside watching. He was very aggressive with me. He had the cuffs on tight. He's flinging me around. And all he could say at the end of it was that I fit a description, And so those are just a couple personal instances that I've dealt with where I felt completely powerless just based off of the situation that George Floyd was in. Do either of you have any personal experiences like that or any experiences from friends or family that you've heard of?
Hey, before you start, Lauren is in the waiting room, and no, I don't.
I mean, I'm gonna say I haven't had anyone as scary as that, but I remember I used to when I used to drive Uber, I was driving about 4 o'clock in the morning one time, and I got pulled over by the police. And when the officer came to the car, I said, "Yeah, officer, what's going on? What's going on?" He said, "It looked like you were lost because I was driving in a certain neighborhood." And so he just pulled me over, and that was his reasoning when he told me. And I'm like, "What? You pulled over because you look like you were lost?" You know what I mean? And different things like that happening. But I'm thinking the same thing as you, Andrew. Just that when you hear all the stories on the news, when you hear, people getting killed for no reason, you got to look like, yo, everybody's not doing something wrong. And by being on video, that clearly proves that and shows that. But you still can be the individual gunned down because, like you said, someone got nervous or it was said that you fit the description. You know what I mean? So, that's you don't want to live in fear, but you got to be aware that's very capable of happening.
Not
right,
only
and that's right, because we don't want to live in fear, but it's like we have to live in reality, and we see these things going on, and it's unfortunate that as Black men, when we have children that get to the age where they're able to drive and move about on their own, that we have to have this uncomfortable conversation about based off of who you are and how you look, depending on where you're at. If you run into a cop, this is how you have to conduct yourself. And it's not to say that other cultures don't have to have that same conversation, but it's at a deeper level with us. And it's a very helpless feeling. Andrew, my question to you would be, just kind of from having a little more perspective on this, do you feel that the fear that black men have, or a lot of black men have, of law enforcement. Do you feel that that's justified? Sometimes you'll hear people say things like, well, if you're not doing anything, you don't have anything to worry about. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that it's very much justified. And when I say it's very much justified, meaning we have a lot of pains that have been passed down to us. And what I'm getting ready to say, I have not researched, so I don't have too much information on it. What I'm hoping is that someone who's listening will research it. But what I believe is that the first police officers or law enforcement in the states, that is, were actually galvanized to go and get runaway slaves. They were not necessarily law enforcement to protect property or to stop stagecoach robberies, if the stagecoach was even then back then. But no, they weren't back then. But they were to go out and get runaway slaves, and that's where they got their training from. That's where they got their start from. They were to police those who were out of order, and out of order at that time was those who were not slaves or doing what they're supposed to do on the plantation. And I do have a story. I was in my 20s, driving down Prospect, 24th Street. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. There was a cab stopped in the middle of the, or not in the middle of the street, but in the middle of the northbound lane. At the time, there was a northbound lane, a turning lane, and a southbound lane. So instead of me stopping, what I did was I signaled and simply went around the cab. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. There was no one on the street. Just as soon as I did, cop came behind me, pulled me over. What I did was I rolled my windows up because it was summertime. Rolled my windows up to where it was just cracked about this much. Put my hands on my steering wheel, got my ID out. So when the cop approached me, they had their flashlights on, and a couple of more cars came. So they said, "Will you step out of the car?" I said, "No." What's the problem? They said, "Will you turn your car off?" I said, "No." I said, "What is the problem?" They said, "Roll your window down." I said, "No." What is the problem? And I handed them my ID, and they said, "Are you some kind of lawyer or something?" And I didn't answer the question. But they did not get me out of the car. I did not get out of the car. I did not make any rash moves. So they did not answer my questions either, such as what is the problem and what's your badge number. But they eventually said I used they gave me a ticket for illegally using the center lane as a turning lane, or whatever, they failure to turn or something like that. But it just, yeah, pissed me off. But back to your story. Yeah, that's what I think police officers were originally made for, to gather slaves. And that's why we're still angry to this day.
Mm-hmm. So have you ever had to have that talk with like your daughter or like any of the young men in your family?
No.
Okay. I haven't quite reached that age with my children yet, but it's something that I contemplate on regularly. How you doing, Lojo? They just got in with us.
What's happening, man? What's happening? With your brethren.
Good. Well, now we'll let you get to your destination. So we want to keep the quality of the stream up. I know you're moving, but he's definitely tuning in, and we'll get your input here a little later once you get settled. But yeah, the George Floyd case, it is a very interesting thing, and actually, in watching it, the way that they demonize him, and I wanted to ask you this, LaRon. So we see all of these different instances that happen, right? I mean, there's a whole list of names that we can go through, but at each point, they find a way to demonize the person who was the victim to justify the actions of the police. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, really, it's really not a surprise, because that's always what has been going on to me. It's really not a surprise that I mean, I honestly, I don't even know what too much to say about that. 'Cause just thinking about that, I mean, this is crazy. Like any way they can win a case, it's not about justice. It's about, winning a case. It's about publicity. It's about all the show about it. And when you see an individual, you know, I mean, it's kind of hard to even explain to me. I ain't gonna lie, it's kind of sensitive to me, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I can fully try to answer this question. But when you see us as a people or a police officer against an individual, I can't answer that right now. I ain't even gonna try to. It's sensitive to me.
I get it, man. I get it. It's tough to watch. Like, I actually, when everything first happened with George Floyd and the video first came out, it took me a really long time to even watch it. And when I did, man, I had to cut it off. To see a grown man, you know, crying out for his mother, in the way that he did. And so now for things to come full circle, and here we are, at the point of the trial, and it's sickening to watch. It's really sickening to watch. Lojo, are you settled now, bro?
I sit inside.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. So, for those of you who are just tuning in, I'm A.L. Johnson. This is Elevating Men. We're having a conversation today about some current events, one of which is the George Floyd trial, which we're talking about right now. We're also going to touch on the overdose of the rapper DMX, and just kind of how he went down the path of getting on drugs, and just kind of how that affected him, the people that were in his circle, and how we as men can make better decisions about the people that we associate with so that we can ultimately have a better life. And so that's what we're talking about today. We got a comment here from Stephen James. He says, it's going to continue to happen. The powers that be will never admit to the mental harm that's been done to whites and blacks' love of each other. Absolutely. Every time one of these situations happens, it puts salt on the wound. You know, as a country, we're trying to heal. You know, not to make this political, but with the 4 years of Trump, there was a lot of division. There's a lot of racial tension that was created. And as we try to heal those wounds, these types of situations with George Floyd only put salt on it. It makes it harder for us to be able to make those connections that we ultimately need. And so, you know, it's definitely something that we have to consider. Drew, for someone, I know you said you haven't had to have that conversation, but what we try to do here, you know, it's all about iron sharpening iron. We have these conversations to make each other better and stronger. And so I know this is a bridge that I'm going to have to cross soon. What would be your advice to a parent who has a young child and is concerned about these type of situations? What is that conversation with the child? What do you envision that looking like?
Painful, teary-eyed. And when I say teary-eyed, meaning at some point in that conversation, the adult will actually possibly choke up because they're looking at this bright-eyed individual that has nothing but the world in front of them, hopes and dreams, and looking at their leader, at the most powerful person in their life. They're looking up to him and they're listening. And you're trying to tell them that although I've equipped you to go out and conquer the world, and that this world is yours for the taking, all you have to do is A, B, and C. Including learn your B's and C's. Eventually, you'll have to tell them, but there is this demon out there that hunts little kids like you, and they really hunt you when you get older and have more hair on your face and more bass in your voice. So what you need to do when you see this demon is to act appropriately, and appropriately means to humble yourself as best you can. If not, get down and grovel on your knees so that you can actually give them back the world that I thought that I told you was yours.
Yeah, and then it's tough too, because as a man of a family, you're supposed to be the protector. And so you raise your child, and for, you know, 10, 15, 18 years, whatever it is, until they're out and driving on their own and subject to dealing with the police. They see you as the ultimate protector. You know, as long as daddy's around, I don't have to worry about anything. And now you have to bring yourself down a notch to say, well, I can protect you, except for in this situation. This is when we have to kind of, you know, bow down, or this is where the line is drawn. And I can only imagine that's a tough conversation. And knowing that I have to have that conversation in the future is just it's a very uncomfortable thing. And so we talk a lot here about how different things play on the mental health of men. And sometimes when we talk about Black men in particular, there's a big conversation about us not being the men that we should be. But when you look at situations like this, things that suppress our masculinity, that suppress our power, it kind of plays into all that, and it makes sense. It really does.
It does. I was going to ask you if you wanted to send Stephen a link while the other two are still trying to log in. But what was I about to say? Stephen had made a point of what you have to have this conversation as if it's normal. Unfortunately, that's what we are. That's what we think is normal. And when I say think is normal, it has been our reality. So yes, it is our norm. However, the only reason I would like to personally believe that it's our normal is because we haven't done anything different. We haven't done anything differently. And I just found my other point. When you were talking about, we felt so emboldened, especially with Dad being our protector. I would like to believe that at some point in time, a lot of kids and a lot of adults were broken. Their spirits were broken by the police because of this emboldenedness of I am Black and I am proud, and you will treat me as I am a real person. And that police officer says, no, I'm not going to treat you as a real person. In fact, I'm going to break your spirit, and you will bow down to me and these handcuffs. And it was a test of wills at that point in time. Only we had our voice and sometimes our fists, and they then had billy clubs, which eventually turned into dogs, water hoses, tasers, and then guns.
And that's what really enrages me about all of this is the excessive use of force. Like you have a billy club, you got taser, you got pepper spray, and then a gun should be the last resort. And even at that, you have firearms training, and so it shouldn't be a deadly kill. To see, I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of the brothers was running away from the cops and got shot in the back.
In South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the cop went and dropped his taser by the body. And it was videoed. And he said, taser. You can Google it. Yeah. But see, it's not about a violence, in my opinion. It's about breaking the mind, breaking the spirit. It is like you niggas think you have arrived, and you really need to settle all that down because you're still over here in my country. So this is about breaking the spirit. It's about a modern day lynching. The very first one, to my knowledge, was Rodney King. When they televised that and got away with it, that's when more and more violence was actually shown to us in a timely manner. Meaning when something happened, when we get our chest up, Trayvon Martin was gunned down and said, hey, it was okay. We stood our ground. When something happened and we stood our chest up, the young lady down in Texas who just got stopped for the traffic violation, hey, she just accidentally hung herself. When stuff happens like that, basically what they're saying is, listen, nigga, if you don't get back in line and calm that rhetoric, you can become up missing too, and your family will just cry. That's the best that will happen.
So, Lojo, we haven't got a chance to hear from you. I see you're kind of settled in there. What are your thoughts so far on the conversation about George Floyd, just the case overall? Like, what are your overall thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I will be 1000% honest. I haven't seen a second of the court proceedings. I've seen the summaries and things of that nature, but I haven't seen any of the court proceedings. I don't even understand them. I'll be 100% honest with you. He got murdered in the streets. What trial do you really need to have? He was murdered in the streets where everybody could see it. Unless we talking about what the punishment's going to be, an actual long, lengthy trial for what? Then of course we've seen, the character painting and things of that nature. They talked about his his background with drugs and his different interactions with the law to try to tear down his character. But I mean, the truth of the matter is he got murdered in cold blood on the streets. Like there really isn't anything to discuss from the standpoint of were the cops in their right to be able to murder him, right? And so I think this is where this is part of where some of that desensitization comes in, is we've seen it so much that we don't necessarily, like, we don't react to it anymore, because it's just like, is this a normal thing? It's just another day. Whether you're a cop or whether you're just a regular, black man, black civilian, it's just another day. And that's where the desensitization comes in. And I think part of that is, not knowing some of the history. If you don't know your history, it's doomed to repeat yourself if you just don't know. And I think, this younger generation doesn't really understand the storyline of what has transpired over, the decades and the centuries as it relates to the handling of black men in the in the eyes of law enforcement. But I mean, it's so far deeper than that, though. It's so far deeper than that. I mean, if you take this George Floyd case, for example, Derek Chauvin, I think I pronounced his name right. He really had even no business being a cop. He had no business being a cop. He had case after case against him where he had already shown brutality in different jurisdictions. But the issue that came into play was that, so let's say I'm a cop in Kansas City, right? If I decide to go to Atlanta, that's not necessarily going to follow me. So Atlanta won't be privy to all of that information, because you're gonna run a background, but all that stuff is concealed. Disciplinary action is concealed, and I learned that just with sitting down with the police here in my hometown and understanding how all that works. Because the police chief here was like, there's not a national database where we can look into these offenses. A lot of these offenses are sealed up, but training. I mean, you talk about training, cops aren't trained to wound. That's not what the training is. The training is we aim to kill. If we feel like there's a physical threat, it's not we shooting to wound you, we're shooting to kill you. Like, that is what the training is. And if you look at, now I don't know if the jurisdiction is the same across the board, but if you have a knife, if I'm a cop and I physically see that knife, or I think I see it, I can raise you a level. It's like playing poker. You got a knife, I can raise you a level to a gun now, because you've posed a threat. And so
no, that's good. Actually, talking about the solutions. And so Corey, he actually left a comment here that alludes to some of that. It says, we tend to jump to outrage before addressing the technical aspects. We should be applying pressure to change laws that enforce abuses of power. And I agree with that. So one start to that would be what you mentioned, is actually having a database. If you in one jurisdiction and you do racial profiling or something like that, that record should follow you no matter where you go. And so that's one solution. That's a place to start. Andrew, I'm going to ask you, just kind of going along with that, as far as making change, what changes do you feel could be made in the police force that would benefit us as far as the fear that we have?
The be, and Stephen mentioned it in his comments, the power of the be. Corey opened up what we tend to jump to outrage, and the answer to that question, what can we do about it, is in the preamble it says, we the people in order to form a more perfect union. We the people in order to change something. We the people. And unfortunately, Black people are still not we, nor are we the people. Some of us don't even know that that we are people. Some of us still consider ourselves worse or less than people. Some of us accept the fact that, hey, I'm nothing but a bitch or a nigga. Some people have a lot of pain in us, and we have not come to the point where we could unify our voices, such as the gays and lesbians, which now have gotten that language, their language, excuse me, into the constitutional protections. So now it's illegal to discriminate against age, race, sex, freedom of religion, and sexual preference. It took them organizing. It took them becoming a we in order to do that. Jews, you don't hear anything that talks about the Holocaust in a negative light. You don't hear anything that talks about kikes and whatever else was a slur against Jews, because when they became a people, when we organized our voices, shall I say, and our finances, we became power filled, and America acknowledged that. We're the only ones who haven't. We're the only ones who act like we don't know how to. We're the only ones who are afraid, and we're afraid for a real reason. You had talked about somebody said no one is trained to shoot to maim. At one point in time, police officers did shoot to maim. They would shoot you in the leg so that you can actually go to court. But what happened was, and the research will tell you, what happened was the person that survived, they sued the police departments. Many persons that were maimed, they sued the police department, and that became costly. So what happened was they determined that there will be no more lawsuits, especially in this situation. We will shoot to kill. And the reason that we shoot to kill is because it will be us on the stand and no one to verify or to contradict our word.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's a lot. And then he actually, there was a comment here from Mr. Ray Brown. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you being here. He said private civilians have way more leeway in using deadly force than police officers. Lojo, what's your thought on that? Me personally, I'd have to push back on that a little bit. That may be true, maybe like Homestead Act, if somebody's on your property. Outside of that, I really don't know where we would have more leeway. What do you think on that?
If you read the statement, he's right. We have civilians have access to guns, whether it's the regular market or the black market. So it's not like you can't get them. I think that that's such a loaded statement, but I do think that that law enforcement has more protection under the law. And I think that's where the paradigm begins to change, is we have access to guns as civilians, as black men, and I'm only speaking for black men in this particular sense. We don't have the same leeway under the eyes of the law. And I think that's where you have to start going in different directions. And some of that is just our own knowledge of the law, right? Some of us don't even know what laws protect us. Andrew had alluded to being pulled over and them asking him to get out of the car and him saying no. Can a cop say, "Hey, I need to check your glove box, it's locked"? Go ahead and pull on the handle if you want to, if I decide to let you in, but the glove box is locked. No, you do not have access. Can you pop the trunk? It is locked as well unless I give you access. So no, I will not pop the trunk until you tell me why you were pulling me over and why any other thing besides that has any relevance to why you pulled me over. If you pull me over for a busted tail light, give me a ticket for the busted tail light. Why you need me to pop my trunk? Why you need me to pop my, open a glove door? For what? For what? Because at that point, that's when they know they have you. When you, I'm gonna pop the trunk because I don't want no trouble. No, that's not what they're looking for. It's a mental shell game. They want to know if you understand the laws that protect you. Because the minute that they understand you don't know, they got you. They got you.
Wow. So let me ask this, because I believe Mr. Brown here, leave a comment if you are, but I believe Mr. Brown here, he's actually a police officer. And so he left a statement. He said, "I've shot one person, killed another, and both shootings were deemed justified. The issue is education." How much do you feel that education plays a part in this? Andrew, I, I don't know. I don't know. Like I understand like knowing the laws and knowing your rights. Like I know that a police officer can pull me over and I can refuse, right? I can verbally refuse. But some officers, we've seen it. They take that as escalation.
Exactly.
You know? So now you're being insubordinate. You know, now you're testing my authority. You're testing my power. So now let me show you. And so I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Exactly what you, Scuffin, is saying. Now, when I made that comment about they used to shoot to maim, that was, again, based on my recollection of what I heard. So that's hearsay. It's not factual. So, Mr. Brown, you may be totally right about that. However, I'm 58 years old, and I do believe, according to your picture, I got more gray than you. So there may be a time before you were born that police officers actually did shoot in the leg, shoot in the knee, and their suspects actually did live and go to court, and they were sued. So that I do remember. But as far as education, it may be a part of education. You'd have to explain that, but it does not take too much education for me to actually be black-skinned and the situation elevate just because the officer walked up to my car. And when I say situation elevates, meaning I have seen video, and the video may be doctored and altered, but I have seen video where persons not of black skin actually fought back with officers. I think I saw it on January 6th, and none of them were shot. Not outside the rotunda, but one actually was shot when she tried to climb through a window where Secret Service agents had their guns drawn.
We talking about the Capitol building?
Huh?
You talking about at the Capitol building?
I'm talking about at the Capitol building. Okay. And they were fighting the officers back. Had that been me, I'd be dead. So think about education that
you can't prove that. You can't prove that.
No, I can't prove that.
And I think that's where that's where the waters get murky. We can assume that that is a possible outcome based off of what has happened in the past. But that's what we keep talking about. We keep talking about how powerless we are because we never galvanize and are willing to connect to even see what would happen. Now, I'm not saying that we need to go off and we need to storm the Capitol building. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But we continue to allow this emotional response to dictate how we move. Every time, like George Floyd has become a martyr, and they love creating martyrs because we move with this emotional direction instead of moving with the direction of logic where we can actually go and demand action. We keep saying we know what's going to happen if we storm the Capitol building. We don't because we won't, because we assume that we know what's going to happen. And so you can't. That's just part of the paradigm of us continuing to live in fear of the police to be frozen within our own pain and not be able to make a counter move. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that if we were to storm the Capitol building, that they wouldn't be waiting for us with guns drawn. I'm not telling you that. What I am saying is we can't prove it. We can prove that we marched all the way to D.C. We can prove that, they held us up at the bridge. We can prove those things. But until we decide to do something with solidarity, as it relates to this, instead of just being in such an outrage, again, are you willing to die for the cause?
And that's let me say, and that's real quick. What I'm not going to say, I guess you can call it an issue, is really the fear of putting yourself in that situation. Nobody want to die. We've seen it happen, and that's why it's publicized to let it be known that, listen, if you go and you do this, storm the Capitol building or whatever it may be, then there are consequences and repercussions. And nobody wants to die. I don't care who you are, what color you are. Nobody really wants to die. And like I said, it's just been implanted in our mind. If you were getting killed for a traffic ticket, imagine if you try to go ahead and storm the building if you want to. You know what I mean? Or imagine, resisting whatever it may be. So once again, it's the fear that's, I believe, is really holding a lot of us back from uniting and doing it. Like I said, nobody wanted to die. Martin Luther King didn't want to die. Malcolm X didn't want to die. But I believe at the same time, in any way to make, when you're looking to make a change in this area, people are dying right now. People are going to die. People are dying regardless, and I'm not telling you to put yourself out there, nothing like that. But I'm saying, it's such to say it's understandable, but it's not understandable because we got to do something about it.
You made a point though, LaRon. You made a point when you said that they didn't want to die, but they were willing to die. 100%. What did Dr. King say? I may not make it over the mountaintop with you.
100.
Because he knew that there was a possibility that with all of the connection that he had created to galvanize the poor people, because they didn't go after Dr. King when it was just black people. They went after Dr. King when he started galvanizing poor people, because then you start messing with people's money, right? But he was willing. He was willing to die. It wasn't that he wanted to. No, nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to live forever, I think, or live a long life at least. But they were willing to die. And that's what has happened to us as a race, as a people, is ain't nobody willing to die. Ain't nobody willing to do it. We just sitting here and we stuck in our own fear. And I know I sound so insensitive right now. I know I do. I know people like, man, whatever. They gunning down black people. Let's be honest. Let's be 100% honest. We keep talking like they just gunning down black people. What they doing is they just putting us on the TV. White people getting killed. Everybody getting killed by the cops. They putting it on TV because they know as soon as they put it on TV, we get fired up. And when we are emotionally high, we cannot move in logic.
That's good.
2 points. Lauren said we've never galvanized to, I'm summarizing. So these were not your words. Summarizing, we've never really gotten to the point where we were willing to die and fight back.
Recently.
Okay, so you did understand that in 1985, the police did bomb Philadelphia when the Panthers, not the Panthers, MOVE was organizing, and prior to that, the Panthers, when they armed themselves, how they were dismantled and eventually murdered. But I think I also understand what not Corey, but G. Ray Brown, Mr. Brown, the police officer, is talking about as far as educating ourselves. And at one point in time, when what they wanted to call the height of police shootings had come out just recently, they started, they being the government, gave grants. They actually submitted, or not submitted grants, but gave grants for the community to actually begin to educate themselves on how to conduct themselves when they're pulled over by police. Meaning, we were supposed to actually shuck and jive quietly according to the training that we had. The police didn't have any training. If they wanted to pull their guns out and shoot us, if we did not shuck and jive, then we didn't follow the training. But the education was we need to know how to act as people, as citizens who are just driving while black, walking while black, breathing while black. We need to know how to act when a police officer says, "Hey, boy, what are you doing?" That's what I think the education is.
I love it. I love it. Yes, you were hitting it on the head, because number one, when will we go and fight for the right things? I'm George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. The list goes on and on and on and on. And it's not just black men, it's black women. It's not just brothers and sisters. They gunning us all down. Who's gonna step up and be like, hey, we need to talk about this training that y'all providing for these cops? Let's talk about the training. When was the last time you even got trained on something new that was relevant?
Hey, I need to apologize. Mr. Brown, he says, no, sir, that's not what he's talking about. And forgive me for actually saying as if I knew what you were talking about. And forgive me for using your words as a target. Okay, you're not a cop, but still, it was not right of me. It was more, excuse me. Are you? Oh, no, I'm not an officer. And again, I apologize because I was speaking more so from passion and pain, and trying to quote thought and not fact.
But I'm gonna say this.
Just really quick. Just for those of you who are tuning in, we're talking about the George Floyd case and how it affects the mental health of men. Anybody who wants to join in on the conversation by video, and so if you really have something to say, you want to be able to express yourself in more than just a typed out comment, click the link. I left it there in the comment section. Just click the link and we'll be able to add you on so that you can voice your opinion. So this is an interactive show. We want all of your feedback. We want all of your input. Go ahead, Lojo.
We need a balance, right? Because we're not going to move without emotion. We're just going to sound like robots, right? So we need a balance of the pain and passion that of what we've gone through. We need to teach the history of what we've experienced, as a race, as a culture of people. What we can't do is we can't allow that emotion to be the guiding force behind how we act and interact with the police, because we don't want to be judged as a group, right? If you see me and I got my skull cap on and I'm walking with Andrew, both Andrews, right? Y'all don't want to be judged based off of my skull cap and what that may mean to somebody else, because y'all bald. Y'all ain't got nothing on. Y'all just showing your shiny domes, right? So we don't want to be judged. We want to be judged as individuals, not as a group. But what do we turn around and do? We judge the whole group. The whole law enforcement is a sham. We need to defund the police. We need to abolish cops and all that.
No. And so
no. I see you shaking your head over there because you're not saying that. And I'm not. I get
what you're saying.
Yeah. And so
no. Actually, what I was going to say, the solutions. So that's where the question, because we kind of veered off a little bit.
Okay.
And so we were just talking about actual solutions, suggestions for the police force, laws that could be enacted. And so you're saying training. What does that look like? What would you hope to come out of the training?
So obviously, you first have to understand what the training looks like now, right? Understand what the training looks like now. How evolved is it? Is there, what is the sensitivity training that they do look like? Because that's important. That sensitivity training that they go through, that they may go through once every 2 to 3 years, that never evolves. It's just kind of a recurring cycle. Let's look at the psychology of how they teach you to even look at an individual and size him or her up. Because cops size people up quick because you're human. I mean, that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? But the other part is that dark is bad, right?
Stereotypes.
We still live in that cloud. Dark is bad. The darker you are, the badder you may be.
Exactly.
So the mocha chocolate brothers is gone. They pose a bigger fear than the light-skinned brothers. You know what I'm saying? It's a different level of fear. Now they're gonna kill us all the same, but it's a different level of fear. So it may take a little bit more to get riled up with maybe a light-skinned person than it would a dark-skinned person.
So then there's like the aspect of kind of colorism. That kind of comes into play.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, me, as far as like a solution, the one for me is the body cameras. I think that can be highly effective, but with the inability to shut it off when they want
Tell
to.
a story.
Yeah.
Let me tell a story, man. I live out here in Raymore, Missouri. Another word for that, for people that don't know what Raymore and they assume, is the sticks, right? I sat down and I sat down with the police chief. Police chief has an open door policy. I sat down with the police chief. I said, hey, we need to have a conversation about body cams. I need to understand why the conversation got shut down. And she took full responsibility. She said it was me. I didn't think that they would be able to protect the privacy and the rights of everybody, so I shut the whole conversation. And I said, okay, thank you for being honest. I would like to put a committee together. And I want you on a committee or an officer of your choice. And let's talk about it. Let's have this conversation again. Raymore now has passed. It's not a law. We recreated a whole body cam law for this city, where the funds were created and paid for through the city for all the officers that have body cams. They are integrated with the dash cams, so that, because you made the comment about them shutting off. Yeah, they're integrated with the dash cam. So once once a cop hits that button and pulls somebody over, dash cam comes on, camera comes on. They don't have to hit a button. They don't have to hit a button. It's already there, And so, but that was me moving with the understanding that something has to change, and I have to be the catalyst for change. I didn't sit back and just say, you know what, we need body cams. No, I got up. I actually created it. I set a meeting with the police chief. I said, let's have the conversation. I need for you to hear me, and I will be more than happy to hear you.
No, I commend you for that, man. I commend you for stepping up and actually taking action.
And I want full transparency.
Yeah.
Like, that was my thing. Right. This is not just for me as a civilian. This is for you. So if I come out and I'm like, yeah, man, you slammed me to the ground and everything, it's gonna be like, the video footage is right here. I made sure they put stuff in there to where nobody could doctor the videos without the permission of multiple people. You got to get a court order to omit stuff out of the video. And that court order had to be provided to everybody involved in that case.
Got it. So
there's little things like that. Look at the Constitution. Let's just talk about the Constitution for a minute. That's the solution. If we look at it right. The Constitution is a solution if we look at it right. They trying to take our guns away. That sure makes us powerless, doesn't it? Makes us powerless.
LaRon, we hadn't heard from you in a while. Just really quick, what are your couple thoughts on solutions? Maybe laws that can be enacted to kind of curb some of this violence that we experience from the police force.
I'll keep it simple. I say the biggest thing I think is heavier consequences for their actions. Prison time. I say if there's prison time involved for and it's for their actions, for even and really looked at, even by you shooting somebody, looking through the proper procedures. What did you do before you end up going here where the gun put out on you? Like, what was your situation? And I believe if there are certain things in place to say this is the only time you pull out a weapon of this sort, of a gun or something like that, is when you're in this type of situation. I believe if there's things set up to where it pinpoints your life really being in danger, that and if it's not in danger and you kill someone or something of that sort, you get heavily penalized, not just fined, you go to prison. Put it that way. I think that'll stop a lot of that. Nobody wants to be taken away from their families. And if you're taken away from your family, just like I would have been taken away from mine, or I am, then now we got some balance.
But you want them in Gen Pop though. Because that's the thing. Some of these cops get prosecuted and they do go to prison, but they don't go to Gen Pop. They go to some private, safe, secluded area where they can't be bothered. Like, they got to go to Gen Pop.
For sure. Now, So we've been touching on the George Floyd situation. Definitely not going to leave it. If you think of something else, we could still have the conversation. I know our brother LeBron is going to have to leave here in a second, and so there was another point that I wanted to bring up. But what was you had something to say, Drew? Oh, you were muted. What was that?
I said, looks like Mr. Brown has pulled over. I had to pull over. And it sounds as if he has time, remind him of that link.
Right. Yeah. So, most definitely, like I said, on our show, it's completely interactive. We welcome difference of opinions. We don't assume to agree on everything, but that's really how we grow. Is by having these conversations. And so if you would like to fully voice your opinion on video, you can click the link. I left it in the comments, and we'll add you to the conversation, and that'll give you a little, better way to completely express yourself versus the typed comments. And so there's another topic I wanted to touch on, and I wanted LaRon to be available for it. And so if we need to go back to George Floyd, we could definitely do that. But the other situation I wanted to talk about today was DMX. And so I talked about it a little bit at the very beginning of the show. For those of you who don't know, DMX, the rapper in the 90s, early 2000s, had a bunch of classics. We all know him. He overdosed on crack cocaine. Right now, he's in a vegetative state. We're definitely sending prayers out his way. But there was a video that came out where he talked about how he got hooked on crack to begin with. It happened because he was hanging out with the wrong crowd, more or less. He was smoking weed, and the blunt was laced, and he was unaware of it. So at 14 years old, that was his introduction to crack cocaine. Now here we are, about 30 years later, and he's in a vegetative state because of that exact same drug. And so something that happened at 14 carried out through his entire life. And no matter what he did between the fame, from being a famous rapper, being in movies, the money, everything that came with it, it didn't stop that pain. It didn't stop that hurt. And he was still turning to drugs, right? And so what I wanted to touch on, and I'll actually start with you, Laurent, before you go. This is something that we have good conversations about, but how important is it for men when it comes to choosing your tribe, the people that you associate yourself with? How big of a factor is that in the actions that you take on a day-to-day basis, the decisions that you make? And if you were talking to a young man, as we're preparing to do for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, if you were talking to a young man and you wanted to give him some advice on choosing his friends, choosing who he's around, well, what would be your top tips for that?
Well, choosing who you hang with can determine whether you gonna live or you're gonna die. Excuse me for being a little dark in here. I'm in a vehicle, but that can actually determine life or death scenarios and situations. You hanging around the wrong crowd can get you killed, and we see it every day. But really, you can be the one. You can be the individual who dies, and you got to understand that. You can be the individual who was in the car with the wrong people. They robbed a store, and now you're in prison, or you even get killed from that because the person gets caught. I mean, there's so many scenarios. I know people who was just riding with someone and drove them to a person's house. They went in the house, robbed them from drugs, ran back out in the car, and the car got shot, and the person got killed. So I mean, like who you choose to hang with, it's so detrimental to your life. You really got to pay attention to who you hang with. And so and even on the other side, like coming over into hanging out with individuals who are going somewhere, you go somewhere just as well. And I always say you're average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. You really are average. If you hang around 5 and expect to be the 6th one, and if you hang around 5 millionaires, you can expect to be the 6th one. So I mean, like really watching your surroundings, not going along with the wave. I don't like the wave. If I have to be honest, I don't like the wave. I've never been in the wave. I've always been outside of the wave. I've always seen the wave of where everybody's going. People, listen to this, y'all. It's so crazy. Listen to how what happens when you follow the wave. Waves put you in trends that has people put alcohol in their body and setting themselves on fire and then getting into the tub to wash it off. Some people didn't make it from that. Some people have 3rd-degree burns, 1st-degree burns, 2nd-degree burns because of a wave and the people that they've been listening to and are hanging out with. You have to pay attention to that. That determines where your life ends. Pay attention. Look at the people you're hanging with now. Look at the 5 people you hang around with the most. And if you look at the 5 people, and then if you don't hang around a lot of people, that's not always a good thing either, because you're left to your own self. And unless you can boost yourself up to get yourself, and you still got to use people, because those are the people who are going to take you to the place. But you got to look at the people you're hanging around with. If there are people who are not progressing, people who are not moving forward, people who are stagnant and in the same place and don't want nothing from life, and who are negative, you got to get away from them. Once again, this is a life and death decision for some people. And you don't know if that can be you. That could be you. If the people are not right around you, if they're not like-minded, if they're not going in the right direction, change it. And if you change it, your life will change. Don't get caught up with the wrong people.
Man, that's some that's definitely some good advice. That's some wisdom. It actually reminds. So let me show you this real quick. So anytime you see me, I have this on. It might be under my shirt or something like that, but it's a reminder that I always keep. And on this, let me get in the camera. Just a little reminder. It's the serenity prayer. I'll read it to you. It just says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so I keep that with me because that's a very strong reminder about creating my own world and creating my own situations, that I'm the master of my destiny, that I have power over my life. And it's really important for us to really understand the difference in the situations that, hey, if it's something I have no control over, let me let that go and not give that any energy. But let wisdom tell me that if it's something that I can change, give me the courage to actually take the actions to do it. And one thing that we can do and that we do have full control over is our associations. And so even like with this panel of elevated men, Lojo and I, we had breakfast this morning. And so, we kind of sat back and talked a little bit. And we talked about how in doing this show, while we're feeding other people and we're giving advice and we're sharing our experiences, we're also being fed. And so within the time we've done this, I've learned things from each and every one of you that I've been able to apply to my own life. Sometimes my ideas are reaffirmed when we get on the show. And so we talk and I say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And you guys reaffirm it. And then I'm stronger and more confident in walking a certain path. And so that brotherhood is so important. It's so important. Andrew is a big relationships person. Boykin. And so he's always, finding different ways for us to connect and get together and things like that. I think you may be I think he's frozen up. Are you frozen up, Drew?
No, I'm here.
Bro, you are sitting still like a statue, man. You look like the screen was froze. But because you're someone who's really helped me kind of open up to other people. I was a very private, kind of closed off person, but Drew kind of helped me open up. Can you speak to just the idea of brotherhood and how important that is in your life?
What I've learned is that money does not make people. Education does not make people. Houses does not make people. Fame does not make people. People make all of those things. So the most simplest concept of that is, if you have 1 million people who are on your side, who are your friends, there's a strong possibility that you have access to 1 million resources, be it money, be it help, be it a hammer, be it whatever it is you need, because you have people. And if we don't understand the value in people, then we don't understand value, period.
So then, Lauren,
also say, I think Mr. Brown is. Did he try and log on or something?
No, I'm not sure. But Lauren, you have done a lot of mentorship. Mm-hmm. When it comes to young men choosing their friends and their circle, what have you seen? What are some good tools and tips, or even for parents who maybe have teenage children and they're wanting to make sure that they don't get caught up in the wrong crowd? What are some tips and strategies for that?
So, man, that's a loaded question. One of the things that I will say is a really, really strong tip is before vet out the relationship, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. Vet out the relationship, right? I think a lot of times we jump into relationships, whether it's platonic and just friends, or whether it's, relationships with, somebody that we looking to create, a life with. We don't really vet them out. Like some of us, sometimes we just jump in too quick, and some of that's just due to our need and our desire at that time. Uh, but you need to vet out every relationship that you connect with. It's not as simple as saying, "Oh, that sounds good. You're my best friend now." No, vet out the relationship. Give it time. Uh, you know, understand how you connect. You know, uh, understand how you connect to each other, because sometimes you're connecting in the wrong ways, and it's just the wrong type of connection that you're trying to create. Um, you know, uh, pain pain is a scary thing, right? I look at DMX's situation and what drove him to messing with that guy was the pain in his own family, right? His family wasn't strong. So, his mom, she was having her own issues. And so DMX was, in foster care, in and out, which caused him not to build trust with people. So that's why he got in the running with people that was robbing people, right? Because he didn't trust anybody. It was all about him. And he found a circle of people that kind of carried that same mentality, which is you can't trust anybody. And so he thought his man was his friend, and maybe he was. I mean, maybe he was his friend. But for whatever reason, he didn't. Put him in the best position to win. It wasn't because you think about the millions of dollars, the movies, the music. But every story that you hear DMX tell, he talks about the pain that came from his mother by never knowing his father. That's the pain he talks about. Like he may tell you the story about how he got introduced to crack cocaine, but before he even gets to that story, you can hear the pain in his voice. Listen to his music. Listen to the pain that just came out of his spirit when he's talking about, his mom locking him in the closet. And him not understanding why he was locked in the closet with no food, no water. The fact that, he met his father when he was a little boy, and his father basically told him, "Well, I didn't want you." And that pain that he was dealing with, which actually led him to the decisions that he made. You talk to his ex-wife, and his ex-wife, as much as she loved him, she knew he had issues and she couldn't help him. That pain was so rooted, so deep in him. And what was everybody else doing? Oh, D, make another hit. Make another movie. Make some more money for me. We don't care about you. We care about what you can do for us. Nobody cared about DMX's pain. Talk to all those record execs. What did they want? Money. They want him to make another song so he could make them more money. The movie producers. Do your role like you do it, D. Don't nobody do it like you. Make me some money. But I'm in pain. Can y'all holler at me? Can y'all holler at me right quick? No, just go make another song. You want to talk about that? Talk about that in your song, but make me some more money. Nobody ever stopped and said, D, man, we care about you, man. You going down the wrong path. None of his homies was like, D, man, let's get to the root of the problem, D. Holler at me, man. Let's figure this out. Nobody did that. Nobody. They just kept asking for more of him. And so that's what he kept doing until it drove him crazy. And what did he had to do? He resorted to a way that took the pain away. That's what the crack cocaine was doing. It was taking all that pain away. He was numb. That's how he could go out and rob people. That's how he could go out and make another hit. DMX was robbing people while he was making hit records. What type of sense does that make? What type of sense does that make? Because he was so desensitized to his pain in that moment. That's what the drugs were doing to him. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about the women, Women can be a drug. That's what the drug was doing. It was taking him away from his pain, but it could never take him far enough away because he never had somebody that stopped him and said, "Hey man, let me get you some help, bro. Let me get you some help." Are you hanging around people that want to help you, that truly want to help you? Didn't you title this "Iron Sharpens Iron"? Are you rolling with people that are sharpening your blade or dulling your blade? Who you rolling with? Can you even make that discernment? Most people can't even make that discernment, right? Because we all in so much pain that it's just like, oh, he said he loved me. He said he my dog. She said she loved me. She my dog. So we rolling and we just passing that pain around like a lace blunt, right? Passing it back and forth to each other. Ain't nobody helping nobody. Ain't nobody holding nobody accountable. Ain't nobody showing no real love. That telling you, man, it's deep. It's deep.
Andrew, I'm not following that. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
What were your thoughts on that, Drew?
I said I'm not following that. No, that's that. I mean, you know, that's my story. You know, the restoration. It's about restoring from this pain. It's about restoring from this pain, and it's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen overnight. This is a 32-year plan just to get started. Not for us to be 32 years into it. It's a 32-year plan just to get started, just to actually start to retrain our minds and our mouths, so we will actually speak what we actually know is to be different. And what we actually know to be different is we are connected. We just don't want to admit that. We just don't want to be that. We just don't want to believe that, because our fears cause us to resort back to another drug that was not mentioned, and that's comfort. Comfort right now is more powerful drug than crack, because some of us are so comfortable right now that we're afraid to mess up our comfort. We're afraid to lose this comfort, and to make waves could possibly mean losing our comfort.
So when we talk about losing comfort, going back to the George Floyd situation, and Lojo, you talked about, you know, nobody's willing to die. Not that they should, you know, we should just recklessly put our lives on the line, but no one is willing to die. Can you kind of tie those two together?
Absolutely, and maybe here's a better term. Let me soften it a little bit. Let me put some water in the clay. Are you willing to make a sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice? You know, because that's really what it comes down to. You know, whatever you're fighting for, are you willing to make some real sacrifices for that to come to fruition? Because yeah, like this George Floyd case, man, I'm telling you. I mean, we saw what happened to Rodney King. We saw it, you know. Video, probably one of the most viral videos ever, really, for real. But then you fast forward to George Floyd, and it's like it took it to the 10th power. Now we saw a man beat, or first we saw a man beat in public. Now we see a man murdered in public, and it's just like, whoa, you know. And what did we do between Trayvon Martin and George Floyd? What did we really do to create change? Did we do anything, or did we just scream and hoop and holler? They just keep gunning us down. They keep gunning us down. Oh, so what did we really do? And I think that's what we have to look at. I'm not saying that we're not supposed to be emotional, but use that emotion to fuel the change that you really want to see. Don't move in it. Use it as fuel. And I think that's the part that burns me up, is that are we going to be having this conversation 10 years from now? Are we going to be having the same conversation, or will it? Is there something that's different about the conversation in 10 years when they murder another unarmed black man, you know, or another unarmed person in general? Are we going to be having this same conversation, or will the conversation be different because the outcome's going to be different? We talk about, you know, I know Brother Brown earlier, he said double time for cops that murder people. And I'm like, okay, like what is that really gonna do? What is that really gonna do? Is that gonna stop the next cop from saying, I got a shot at beating this? I got a shot. Nah, it's not gonna, just because you're giving somebody double time. That's why I said we have to look at this under the eyes of the law. We have to Andrew talked about value, how we don't even value ourselves as a full human being, right? Because for so long we were 3/5 of the man, you know, that 3/5 of us are probably still living in that mentality, right? So, you know, do you even have value in self, you know, to be able to even make the connection of, okay, this is the change that really needs to happen. You know, I can go march in the streets, but we probably do need to go march up to Capitol Hill and say, hey, somebody owes us, at the very least, somebody owes us the time to let us speak, to have a conversation, for us to open up these law books, open up the books, not the ones you want us to see, the ones that you're working off of. Let's talk about that now.
Well, see, here's the thing. Here's a thought that I have, and that's very true. It seems as if I'm a very uneducated person. I got a degree in whatever, and I believe that there are lawmakers and lawyers and politicians and so forth and so on who not only have been at this for many of years, but have plenty of education for the past, let's say, 40 years. And still, that conversation has not made ground.
How much money you got?
Exactly. So what do they do? Do they forsake it so that we can keep having this conversation? Because
remember what I said earlier? We fighting for the right things. Andrew, and I'll ask both of you guys this question. I will pose both of this question to you guys. Name something that you've done for 10 years that didn't get stale. Name something that you've done in 10 years that didn't get stale, that didn't evolve. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. Term limits.
For police officers.
No, for politicians.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because what do we say? We say, you know, oh man, you know, we got, I don't care who you are, we got black people that been mayors and politics in for 40 years, and it's like,
right,
40 years. Like, are you really even investing in change, or are you just trying to hold on to the benefits of being in a position? I guarantee you, if they knew, oh man, well, after 2 terms, I got to get out, I can't even run again, I guarantee you that would present something different. Because if you know, because the voting population is so ignorant that they're not even going to attempt to ask you questions that matter, then what onus do you really have to change? You don't have one. You can just keep that seat warm until maybe you get tired, and then you bring your kid in maybe, and then they do it. And so you create this whole cycle of, you really didn't change the seat because that kid really is just following in what his predecessors, auntie or his mom or his dad did before. Like, the mentality is the same because that's how they raised them. You know, that's why I said, what are we fighting for? You know, are we really fighting for things to change, or are we just fighting for things to make us feel better, for us to be more comfortable with our lifestyles and the way we live, because we're unwilling to evolve the same as the politician. As long as we're comfortable, you know, another black man murdered, you know what I'm saying? They just gonna keep doing that to us anyway. You know what I'm saying? They just gonna keep gunning us down. It's just another brother. There's other brothers out on the streets. And we just gonna keep finding Trayvon Martins, Michael Brown, George Floyd's. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. We will continue to see worse. The evolution of how they taking us out and they televising it, it's just gonna get worse. We'll see a black man dismembered publicly. They cutting off his legs and his arms and his head, and we gonna be like, and then what's gonna happen? We gonna be mad. Oh, somebody need to pray for us. Somebody need to and then we gonna march. And then guess what's gonna happen? We gonna wake up one day and it's gonna be like, y'all want something to eat?
Exactly. Because we're voting for handouts and what's that? Entitlements. Exactly. Exactly.
Definitely.
See, one of the things that we did talk about is something similar to this pain. My opinion of why those persons standing on the side were in so much pain and are still in so much pain to this day and probably will not forget their pain. If you've been following the trial, you'll hear their words. And many of their common words was, I could not do anything, meaning it was my life or his. That was the bottom line. If I would have ran out there and stopped the police officer from choking him to death, I would have been killed. It was my life or his, and I was not ready to die. I was not ready to die for this injustice to stop. Because what would have happened is I would have ran out there. The body cam would have showed that I was actually supporting the fact that it's a hostile crowd. They would have shot me because I would have done this, so forth and so on, and killed him too. But many of them knew that if I do cross this line, I could be killed and nothing is going to change. So they were in so much pain, just like us today. And that's a generalization, because we believe deeply. We know at this point in time in our lives that we are powerless right now because we do not have that voice. We do not have that change. We do not have that answer right now.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems is, for lack of a better term, entertainment politics. And so something happens, there's a big flare up, there's an uproar, everything is heavily televised. We have different organizations like Black Lives Matter, and then you have a corporation that maybe throws some money out there, and then it dies down until the next time. And so there's not a consistent push or effort for change. It just flares up, almost like it's entertainment value. And so we really have to get away from that and make it something that's a consistent effort until we see the change that we want. So
log on, Mr. Brown. The restoration. I promise you, the restoration.
So, hey, Drew, so you brought that up just for people who this may be their first time tuning in. They don't know what the restoration is. Can you just give a brief rundown of what that is?
The restoration is about African Americans and their 6 degrees of separation actually coming together to create a tomorrow that we will not see. But that tomorrow will be resource filled. That tomorrow will have emboldenedness, that will have advocacy. It will have resources. It will have technology. It will have health. It will have a whole lot of things that we are wanting today, striving for today, begging for today, but we're going to build it today so that it will be available for a more mentally prepared group of African Americans, African descendants, and our friends and supporters come the year 2050 and beyond. The website is restin2050.org, restin2050.org. It's about us building tomorrow, because right now our collective minds are too damaged right now to understand what the value of our children really are.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Right quick.
Yes.
Sure.
I gotta fix that for you, brother. I gotta fix that for you.
Please.
You say we will not see it. We will see it because we create the vision. We won't see the end of it because it's infinite. It's just going to continue. It's infinite. But we create the foundation right now. We are the trailblazers right now of what's to come later. We live in we focus on the present and living in the now culturally so much that seeing what the future looks like is really, really challenging for us. But I don't want people to think I'm contributing to something that I won't see. You are the creator, the trailblazer, the foundation of what is to be built. Nobody would see the end result because it's infinite. It's going to continue generation to generation to generation. So there is no end to it. It continues to evolve. It's like a circle, just round and round and round. Anybody that can hula hoop well, it just keeps going. So the reason you won't see it, the end of it, is because there is no end to it. It's just going to continue evolving. We're going to continue to free ourselves, to break away from this pain, this bondage mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually that we've lived in for so long, this fear that cripples us from moving forward and creating that change. Connect to your 6th degree of separation together now so that we can create this infinite structure that only gets bigger and stronger as time progresses. So I don't want people to think, because Dr. King was the only one that was okay with not seeing the other side of the mountaintop because he understood how much work he had put in to even create the trajectory at all. And so I don't want people to think, this is just something that's for the future. So why not just wait for the future to create it? No, it's right now. It's right here. Are you willing to break from that pain? Are you willing to look at a different way of how things operate that really already exists? We're just not connected to it, culturally. Are you ready and willing to make that change? And if you are, join the restoration, as Brother Boykin says. Galvanize yourself with different people, creating different conduits to actually build this thing out. Because this ain't a Kansas City thing, y'all. You got 3 brothers in Kansas City right now. This ain't just a Kansas City thing that we talking about. We talking about something that's global. Global. Understand that. I didn't say national. I said global. That's what we talking about here. It may start on a small scale, but foundations are always built small, and then they continue to expand. And so just understand, like, what you create now, it's gonna make tomorrow. And if you're a parent and you truly want better for your kids, for your grandkids, for your great grandkids, it starts today. It starts with you. Sorry,
So,
I ain't mean. Yeah.
Two things, Andrew. It's quite apparent that Lojo is speaking tonight. He has gone below the depths tonight. And the second thing is, I stand corrected. You are correct, Lojo.
I appreciate it.
Man, that was some strong input,
Absolutely.
man. Definitely appreciate that. And gives us a lot of things to think about and consider and chew on, for a couple of days. So we appreciate that. But for everyone who's tuning in, if you are new, thanks for coming and joining us. Please come back again. We're here every Monday at 7 p.m. You can catch our live stream here on my page. You can Facebook search Elevating Men, and you can also search on YouTube for Elevating Men. If you'd like to catch up on the conversation, we've been having these conversations for the past 3 months now. And so we've covered everything from being a girl dad to growing up without a father, being a good father to our daughters, being a good father to our sons, how to handle our relationships with women. This platform is about making men the best version of themselves. If we can improve ourselves as men, it makes a stronger family and a stronger community. And that's 100% our goal here. And so if this is your first time tuning in, we appreciate you. Come back again. Keep being a part of the conversation because we need you. If you have been tuning in, of course, we appreciate you for sure. Thanks for leaving all of your input. We definitely value that. Before we go, so like we said, we talked about George Floyd, we talked about DMX, we're talking about iron sharpening iron. What are your just final thoughts or any last words before we close out this session?
I'm wanting Brother Brown to connect with you, AL. And the reason being is as this platform has been put together by you, it's for many different minds, not only to share our pains and share our realities, share our information and our education. The commonality in that is to share so that we can actually understand that we can actually differ, find common ground, and build from that together. So he was very vocal tonight and needs to connect with you so that the next segment we talk about something that takes us to yet another place.
For sure. Lojo, man, you've been on fire today, and I'm definitely gonna take you up on that, Drew. And so, Mr. Brown, inbox me if you're still tuning in. Go ahead and inbox me, and let's have a conversation. See if we can bring you on the panel and allow you, the floor, and allow you to just, share your knowledge and your information with us. But Lojo, man, you have been on fire, bro, tonight. And so, close it out for us, man. What are your last words, final thoughts?
Man, look, Andrew Johnson, this is your fault. Now, I just want to share something.
What I do?
Yeah, I want to share something with you people about the power of vulnerability, right? I met everybody on this panel probably 2.5 months ago, right? Through my brother, of all people. I met everybody on this panel through my brother. I was able to say, I don't know these brothers, but if little bro is vouching for him, they good with me. You know what I'm saying? They good with me. I sat down with Andrew today and sharing our stories over breakfast, and like, you too? Like, I thought it was just me. That's where the power comes in. That's where the power comes in when you're willing to dig just a little bit deeper and just ask that one question that might set the room on fire. Ask that one question that will make people open up and talk and realize how much we're all really connected. We talk on the surface level. We ain't talking about nothing. We talk about basic stuff. But are we really digging deep? Are we willing to be vulnerable? You got 4 brothers, sometimes 5 brothers on this panel. And it is so foreign that guys are having these vulnerable, open conversations about the pain of things that we're going through. Take our lead. Take our lead and say, I can do this in my circle. I can have these vulnerable conversations in my circle because we ain't getting nowhere talking on this level. We got to dig deeper. And you will find so many solutions. You will find so many ways that you can connect to probably the same people you've been rolling with forever, where you empower, you enlighten each other. Iron sharpening iron, steel sharpening steel, however you want to word it. Now is the time. Things ain't getting better, they're getting worse in some capacities. And it's because we're not willing to talk to each other. We're not willing to have a conversation where we may not agree, but we still kind of trying to go to the same place. And so it's like, hey, man, I'm going to boost you up this time. You boost me up next time. My man covered breakfast this morning. I said, I did it on purpose because now I got to cover his breakfast, which means we got to get together again, right? We got to have another conversation. And so That's what it's about, man. That is what it's about. If you don't understand anything about what we do and why we do it, understand that. Understand that we decided to just connect with each other and just be like, man, what you think? Well, this is not, I don't know what you think. No, this is what I think. Now tell me what you think. Well, yeah, you know what? I was thinking about that, but I didn't have anybody to tell me whether I could validate my thoughts or not. But now you validated it. I feel more confident now. I can move. You know, I can do what I do now. You know, and so that's what this is about. This ain't about four brothers getting up here and just complaining about how stuff is not going our way and, you know, the world is just this terrible place. This is four brothers saying, man, you know, I'm feeling this type of way. How you feeling? Let's do something about it. Let's do something about it. Because our conversations have moved to action. Or we got action items. We got bullet points now. And I'm telling you, all we want is for y'all to do the same thing in y'all circles. We talk about how comfort is bad. This is where comfort can be good. Talk in your circles of comfort. You know, have real conversations. Even if you make each other mad, you know what? That's what friends do. We piss each other off and then we dap up later. That's how it works. You know, but it's okay to disagree. It's okay not to be in lockstep. It's not okay not to have the conversation. It's not okay not to be open and honest because we are in pain, real pain, and we're only going to fix it together. We keep saying it. Our people are our greatest resource. We are our greatest resource. It's not the money. It's none of that. It's the people. It's the people that create the resources for you. That's so true. Go ask anybody that's broke. Ask anybody that's broke. That's the clear understanding that it's not about the money. Because there have been some really poor people that have lived really enriching lives because it wasn't ever about the money. It was about the resources. It was about the connection. That's why the brothers could stay up all night back in the day and just play dominoes and drink some cognac and have conversation because it was enriching. They were going somewhere with it. Now it's our job to take it to the next level. You know, to take the enriching conversation and start to create action and bullet points with it. To be able to say, hey, young brother, let me holler at you. You're going down the wrong path and not be afraid to do it. Hey, man, pull your pants up. What's wrong with you? Carry yourself like you care about yourself. Pull your pants up, bro. Instead of, yeah, man, them youngsters over there, man, like, they just don't get it. Well, go tell them that. Go tell them. You know, clothes don't get fed. So why don't you go feed somebody? Help them out. You know, that's what mentorship is all about, man. It's not about telling somebody what to do. It's about giving them a level of guidance so that they can go down the right path. And anytime they decide to, you know, veer off of that path, you're there to be like, boop, 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 boop. Because guess what? Life ain't perfect. Everybody's mom and daddy ain't going to be there for them. So why don't you step up? Why don't you do something to continue to make the world a better place? To make sure that that young man that maybe didn't have his mother or his father, that young girl have that. Maybe then, you know, you can say, okay, let me step up and do something. Let me do something. If your mom and your daddy can't do it, let me help you out. Because maybe that's what DMX needed, with somebody to be like, hey, young brother, don't go over there where you got to rob people. Let me holler at you. You know what I'm saying? Don't get stuck in the entertainment life because it's a doozy and you don't want to deal with it like that. Let me give you some better words to use. Instead of stop, drop, open up shop. Just maybe. That's my TED Talk for today.
There's nothing else to say after that.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Let's just leave it right there. Let's just leave it right there, man. I appreciate that input. I value you tremendously. I enjoyed our breakfast and our talk this morning. Andrew, you know, I always appreciate you.
No. I'm pissed. I get hungry too. Don't think I didn't.
It was before your wake up time, man. You this was early, bro.
I get hungry. It's all right. It's okay.
For sure, for sure. But nah, definitely appreciate you, brothers. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Check back next week, same time, same place. We're going to be having another great conversation about how we as men can improve our lives. And so thanks for tuning in. Have a great evening. See you next time.